so that no one that is living on this earth could have ever read a document that was 200 pages and digested it in that shorter period of time. Some of the concerns that have been raised by individuals as we move through budgeting processes have been truly legitimate. Some are frivolous, some are political. We have put forth, and as part of our side of the aisle, nearly $3 to $4 billion of cuts that could have been made over the last 3 years to the state budget. And they will be summarily dismissed by the governor or the treasurer because they don't fit their criteria or their agenda. If you saw, there was a number of articles in the newspaper the last day or two about some incredible things. Now that we are looking much closer at the budget, there have been a whole host of discoveries within the budget and ways that they can save money. There were millions of dollars being spent on individuals who did not qualify for state health benefits, but we were paying those health benefits. There were credit cards that were being abused and misused, thousands of them. There were, and I neglected to bring that and put that as part of the packet, and I apologize for that. But I think that's something that has been starting to be widely reported, and I think you ought to take a look at that. If we do not stop spending, regardless of what the purpose is, there isn't enough money, ladies and gentlemen. There will never be enough money. You can never get enough money to provide for all the programs that we creatively think are in the public good. And what we usually do is when we start a new program, we starve the program that we started previously that we thought was in the best interest of the public. So we start something to make it look good, and then after a few years, it starves to death, even though it may have a tremendously good public purpose. The next issue was something that was part of a major effort done by the legislature 2.5 years ago, and that was the special session we had, in which a number of us spent literally the entire summer and part of the fall coming up with recommended changes in government, in pensions, constitutional resolutions to school funding issues. The vast majority of those suggestions were thrown in the circular file, even though they were agreed to in many cases unanimously by bipartisan groups. The ones that were most significant were some of the revisions to the pension and benefits. The governor sort of short-circuited that by basically telling that committee that was headed up by Assemblywoman Nellie Poe that hand that over to me and I'll do the negotiations with the unions. And history has shown what has happened with the negotiations with the unions. Look, I am not against people getting pensions. I'm not against people getting health benefits. I'm against people abusing it. We have had such abuses in the pension funds and how they're being utilized that unless we step in, I'll give you examples, and I'm not going to mention names, but I'll just give you what became a common practice with engineers and attorneys, that they would basically be hired by the municipality that they were a solicitor for, combining 6, 7 towns in which they acted as solicitors for, put them on as actual employees. So if they were making $100,000, $150,000 from a particular town, they were culling all of those together to have a pensionable amount that was in $400,000, $500,000 range. And some of them had sufficient time in doing this in lower paying jobs in municipalities or in counties that the state pension is calculated on your highest 3 years. So if somebody was making $1,500 a year or $2,000 a year for 22 years, got hooked in with a situation where they could get some high-paying salaries, cobble them together. We have individuals now who took part in that scam who are probably going to be getting in excess of $200,000 in pension from the state because of these issues. If you do a little research, you can find out who these individuals are and just how it was done. We've tried to put a stop to some of that, and public officials now basically go into a 401k as opposed to the regular state pension fund. State pension fund, and let me just talk a little bit about that. The state pension fund, when I first got in office, had $43 billion in it. That was back in 1994. Excuse me. At the height of the dot-com boom in 2000, it was up to about $84 billion. It had grown significantly over that period of time. After 9/11, it tanked, went down to, I guess, about $54 billion. Right prior to this last recession 2 years ago, it was up in the mid-80s again. It is now down to the high 50s or $60 billion. Now, there were some extenuating circumstances. There were tax holiday or pension holidays that were given to municipalities, counties, and the state took a holiday from paying into the pension fund. The governor made a bold statement 3 years ago that he would do everything he can to significantly fund the pension fund. That lasted basically 1 year and has been declining since. This year, he's pretty much taken everything back out as far as funding the pension fund. So I think we have something in the area of maybe $100 million that are going into the pension fund this year. We had projected putting in a neighborhood of $600 million to $700 million in the pension fund. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of some of the topics that you see. It has been my contention that we need to do something different as far as school spending is concerned and school funding is concerned. I don't believe that the Supreme Court has solved the problem of educating children in urban communities.